I'm paying American taxes. I have property in America. All of my businesses run from America still.
But in your...
In my heart,
Yeah.
I don't think I will go back home.
She was fire in motion, stilettos slicing the stage, voice belting through decades of pain and triumph. Tina Turner wasn't just a music icon, she was a force of nature who refused to be broken, burned, or buried. But for all her triumphs, the real story wasn't just in the ovations, it was in the silence, intentional, pointed, and unforgettable. Tina never built a brand on feuds or controversies. She didn't need to. Her performances spoke volumes. Her survival was her rebellion, and her rise from darkness was louder than any headline. But like anyone who's lived through the storms, she had her scars. And yes, some names she would never speak again. In this exclusive deep dive, we're pulling back the curtain, not to stir up gossip, but to tell the truth. Not every story in the tabloids holds up, and when it comes to Tina Turner, the truth is already powerful enough. Let's uncover the real stories behind the tension, the betrayal, and the misunderstood silence surrounding 6 iconic figures who, in one way or another, crossed paths with the queen of rock and roll. Ike Turner, the Cage. She escaped before she was Tina Turner, the powerhouse, the legend, the icon. She was Anna Mae Bullock, a determined girl from Nutbush, Tennessee, with a voice that could raise the dead and a spark the world hadn't yet seen. But her transformation into a global superstar came with a devastating cost, and that cost had a name: Ike Turner. This isn't a rumor. This isn't second-hand gossip. Tina told the world herself, over and over again. From her 1986 autobiography, I, Tina, to her heartfelt interviews with Oprah Winfrey, and the haunting biopic, What's Love Got to Do with It? The story of Ike Turner's abuse is one of the most documented truths in rock history. They met when she was just a teenager, dazzled by the rhythm and fire of Ike's Kings of Rhythm band. He saw her potential immediately, her power, her presence. He gave her the name Tina and formed the Ike and Tina Turner Revue, a soul rock sensation that exploded onto the scene in the 1960s. But behind the electrifying duets and flawless performances was a home built on fear. Ike didn't just manage Tina's career, he controlled every facet of her life. He decided what she wore, how she sang, who she saw. He beat her, repeatedly, violently, unforgivably. In her own words, Tina described being physically assaulted before performances and told to smile anyway. She once said, "I was living a life of death. It's one thing to sing through the pain, it's another to survive it." And she did survive it. Barefoot and bruised in 1976, Tina made a decision that changed everything. After a violent altercation in a Dallas hotel, she fled in the middle of the night with just 36 cents and a gas station credit card in her pocket. That moment, bloody, broken, but finally free, was the beginning of her second life. The divorce was finalized in 1978. She asked for nothing from him. No money, no assets, just the right to keep the name Tina Turner, a name he gave her, but one she had earned in pain, grit, and perseverance. For years, she refused to even speak his name publicly. When she finally did, it wasn't out of bitterness, it was out of necessity, to share her story, to help other women, to reclaim the narrative. And while some in the industry tried to redeem Ike's legacy musically, Tina never softened her stance. In 2007, when Ike died, Tina's publicist issued a rare and coldly measured statement. Tina hasn't had any contact with Ike in more than 35 years. No further comment will be made. That silence? That was power. In Tina Turner's life, Ike Turner wasn't just a villain. He was a prison she escaped, a fire she walked through. And she didn't just walk out. she soared. Bowie, misjudged admiration or fabricated tension. In the world of rock and glam, David Bowie and Tina Turner were both towering forces, each a magnetic presence on stage, each unafraid to push boundaries. On the surface, they seemed destined to collaborate, to ignite the stage with their collective electricity. And in many ways, they did. But over time, a quiet narrative emerged, one that suggested there was a rift between the two icons. The story, as it's often passed around, claims that during a party sometime in the early 1980s, Bowie made an off-color remark about Tina's abusive past, allegedly calling her experience with Ike character building. The anecdote paints a picture of Tina standing frozen, smiling to save face while internally seething, vowing never to work with him again. It's a dramatic moment, poetic, cinematic. But here's the truth. There is no verifiable source or confirmed account of this incident. No biography, no interview, no article from Tina or her close confidants has ever publicly substantiated this version of events. On the contrary, there's evidence of mutual respect between Tina and Bowie. In 1985, they did share the stage for a now iconic live performance in Birmingham, UK, singing Tonight and Let's Dance. The chemistry was electric, playful, and affectionate. Bowie even kissed her on the cheek to roaring applause. In Tina's 1986 autobiography, I, Tina, she doesn't mention Bowie at all, not in praise or criticism, nor did she raise concerns about him in later interviews. Bowie himself often spoke glowingly about strong female performers, and there is nothing in his documented behavior to suggest cruelty or mockery toward survivors of abuse. So, where did this story come from? It likely stems from the modern trend of blending fact with emotional storytelling to create viral drama. While Tina Turner undoubtedly faced painful moments in her life, there's no reliable evidence that David Bowie caused one of them. What's more important is what Tina valued: respect, dignity, truth. If Bowie had genuinely mocked her trauma, Tina, who did not shy away from calling out abuse when it mattered, would likely have said so in her own words, as she courageously did with Ike Turner. Instead, we're left with a rumor that spreads not clarity, but confusion. And in honoring Tina's legacy, we owe her more than that. Aretha Franklin, the Clash of the Queens, Tina Turner and Aretha Franklin, two reigning queens, two voices that changed music forever. Both women redefined what it meant to be a black female powerhouse in an industry that too often tried to box them in. But when legends rise in the same sky, people start looking for lightning. For decades, whispers of a rivalry followed them, gritty, glamorous, and often exaggerated. But was it real? Let's separate the drama from the facts. In the late 1960s and early 70s, both artists were ascending in their own lanes. Aretha, hailed as the Queen of Soul, was rooted in gospel and elegance. Tina, fiery and fierce, was the queen of grit and sweat-soaked soul rock fusion. Industry insiders and media outlets alike were quick to draw comparisons. But comparisons often breed competition, especially in the public's imagination. One of the most quoted jabs attributed to Aretha is, "She screams, I sing." A sharp, dismissive remark reportedly aimed at Tina's raw, untamed vocal style. But here's the problem. There's no verified source for that quote. No interview, no book, no official documentation. It exists only in anecdotal circles, passed around like urban legend. Did the two have tension? Probably, but more likely the kind that comes from overlapping worlds, clashing expectations, and the pressure of being the best in a male-dominated industry. According to music insiders, they were often booked on the same shows or awards, galas, and were rarely seen interacting. Coolness? Perhaps, Outright hatred? Unlikely. In her later interviews, Tina never criticized Aretha directly. In fact, in a 2008 interview, she acknowledged Aretha as a singular talent, saying, "There's only one Aretha." She even paid subtle homage to the soul legend in performances, never imitating, but always honoring the genre they both helped define. And yet, the press clung to the idea of conflict. In 1983, when a producer reportedly invited Tina to join Aretha for a high-profile duet, Tina declined. Not with drama, not with shade, just a simple, quiet no. Was it because of rivalry? Maybe. Or maybe it was Tina's fierce commitment to authenticity. She didn't do artificial chemistry. If she didn't feel it, she didn't fake it. There's a poetic elegance to how these two legends existed. They rarely collided, but they circled each other in history. Two queens who didn't kneel, didn't bow, and didn't break. Whether or not a rivalry ever truly existed, Tina Turner never let it define her. She didn't compete. She conquered, on her terms. Madonna, generational clash, or manufactured shade? By the time Madonna was exploding onto the pop scene in the early 1980s, Tina Turner had already earned her scars, her stripes, and her stardom. She was a survivor with decades of stage experience, a woman who had fought for her name and rebuilt her empire from the ashes of abuse. In many ways, Tina paved the road that Madonna would strut down, fierce, independent, and unafraid of shocking the world. So, were they allies? Adversaries? Something in between? The idea that Madonna disrespected Tina often stems from vague, unverified claims, that Madonna dismissed older female artists in interviews, or that she mimicked Tina's style without giving her credit. These stories have never been backed by direct quotes or reliable sources. No known interview features Madonna calling Tina irrelevant. In fact, Madonna has historically acknowledged the trailblazers who came before her, even if not always by name. Still, the generational gap between them was real. Tina Turner, in her 40s during Madonna's rise, represented a kind of hard-earned elegance, one forged in trauma and resilience. Madonna, bold and provocative, was built on rebellion and redefinition. Critics naturally drew comparisons. When Madonna donned leather, styled her hair wild, and prowled the stage with choreographed fire, they said she was channeling Tina Turner. If Tina felt slighted, she never said so publicly, but she didn't have to. In 1984, Private Dancer was already dominating the charts, proving that Tina's era was far from over. She wasn't just relevant, she was redefining relevance. What really fueled the rumor mill was a 1992 charity gala where both women appeared. Eyewitness accounts suggest they didn't exchange a word, not even a smile. Some interpreted the silence as tension, but Tina was never one to fake warmth for the cameras, and Madonna, equally known for emotional boundaries, may have simply been following suit. The truth? There is no confirmed animosity between them. No feud-ending quote, no closed-door confrontation. Just two women, iconic in different ways, with different energies, in an industry that thrives on imagined rivalries. In the end, Tina Turner didn't need to call anyone out. Her success, and the legacy of Private Dancer, spoke for itself. If there was silence between her and Madonna, it wasn't bitterness, it was choice. And for Tina, silence was often louder than applause. Phil Spector, the promise that vanished. Phil Spector was more than a producer. He was an architect of sound, a self-anointed kingmaker. In the 1960s and 70s, he had the Midas touch. And for a moment, he saw in Tina Turner something few others did. Raw, unfiltered power that could pierce the walls of rock and roll. Spector reportedly called Tina the only female voice strong enough to stand up to a rock orchestra, a statement that simultaneously complimented her vocal dynamite and teased a potential collaboration. There was buzz, hints of studio sessions, and for a while, Tina believed something monumental was about to happen. But then, nothing. Spector allegedly chose to work instead with Ronnie Spector, his then wife and lead vocalist of the Ronettes. The reasoning? Unclear. What's known is that Tina Turner, ever the professional, had prepared vocally, emotionally, logistically for the opportunity. And when the door closed without explanation, she didn't shout. She didn't scorn. She simply shut the door behind her. Was she devastated? Likely. In a male-dominated industry where women of color fought twice as hard for half the opportunities, being sidelined, especially by someone who had praised her talent, cut deep. Still, Tina Turner never publicly criticized Phil Spector. When asked about him in later years, she simply moved on or avoided the topic entirely. That was her signature style, silence with weight. She understood that betrayal didn't always need a headline, it just needed distance. And in her world, when someone showed you who they were once, you didn't ask them to prove it again. Elton John, When Icons Collide. On paper, Tina Turner and Elton John sounded like a dream duo. Both were larger than life. Both had stage presence in spades, and both had reputations for demanding excellence, of themselves and of others. So, when a collaborative performance was scheduled in the late 1990s, often cited as part of the VH1 Divas Live or related TV specials, fans expected fireworks of the good kind. But behind the scenes, what unfolded was a slow, heated clash of creative personalities. This is one of the few rumored feuds that does have partial confirmation, most notably from Elton John himself. In his 2019 autobiography, Me, Elton recounted that he and Tina didn't exactly see eye to eye during rehearsals. He called her a nightmare, noting that she criticized everything from his singing to his stage attire. According to Elton, she accused him of being sloppy and unprepared. His ego flared, tension escalated, and though the performance went on, it was far from harmonious. Tina, true to form, never commented publicly on the feud. She left the storytelling and the venting to Elton. But those close to her said the experience left a bitter taste. She considered him brilliant, no doubt, but also difficult. Talented, yes, but tiresome. For Tina, who had battled real chaos and pain, showbiz tantrums weren't worth the energy. Their relationship never recovered. They didn't perform together again. There were no reconciliatory interviews or red carpet hugs, just another silent boundary drawn in the sand. And once Tina drew a line, she rarely stepped back over it. The power of silence, Tina's true language. By now, a pattern becomes clear. While tabloids chased headlines and gossip-fueled clicks, Tina Turner was playing an entirely different game. She didn't air dirty laundry. She didn't drag names through the mud. She didn't give us the public meltdowns the media loves. Instead, she wielded silence like a sword, sharp, deliberate, and final. That silence wasn't passive, it was active. It was her way of closing doors without slamming them, her way of surviving an industry that had betrayed her more than once, personally and professionally. And yet, she never let that betrayal define her. Her voice, unmistakable and volcanic, became her true revenge. Every sold-out tour, every platinum album, every standing ovation. That was her rebuttal to every slight, every backhanded compliment, every producer who ghosted her, every pop star who forgot to say thank you. It's easy to sensationalize, to take 6 names and slap the word hate across them in big, bold font. But Tina Turner wasn't interested in petty grudges. What she carried wasn't hatred, it was memory, caution, self-preservation. Each of these names, whether confirmed conflict or industry myth, served a purpose in Tina's story. Ike Turner, a warning about control and survival. David Bowie, a reminder of how fragile respect can be. Aretha Franklin, a lesson in coexistence and composure. Madonna, a symbol of shifting eras and the silence between them. Phil Spector, a case study in empty promises and quiet rejection. Elton John, a mirror of clashing egos and misunderstood brilliance. She didn't erase them from history. She simply chose not to let them occupy space in hers. In her final years, Tina Turner didn't look back in anger. She looked back with wisdom. She had faced storms most people couldn't imagine, and still, she rose. She built a second life, a second career, and an unshakable legacy that transcended genre, race, and pain. Tina's story was never really about who wronged her. It was about what she did with the pain, about the songs she belted through tears, the stadiums she filled after being told she was too old, and the millions she inspired by simply surviving. So, when we speak of Tina Turner and those who clashed with her, let's not reduce it to tabloid bitterness. Let's honor it for what it really was. The story of a woman who knew when to speak, and when silence said more than words ever could.